It's the third Sunday of autumn. Our Unitarian Universalist bylaws affirm 6 values centered in love and inseparable from each other. On the third Sunday of the season, we call to mind the third such value, justice. We work to be diverse, multicultural, beloved communities where all thrive. We covenant to dismantle racism and all forms of systemic oppression. We support the use of inclusive democratic processes to make decisions.
Our opening hymn is number 89, and please rise as you are willing and able.
Good morning. Good morning. I am not Elijah Evans. I am Louise Alcorn. I am your celebrant associate this morning.
And I am the Reverend Meredith Garmon, interim minister to this congregation, zir or he, him.
Welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Des Moines. Our building is located on land that has been home to humans for 12,000 years, starting with people of woodland culture and later the Iowa, Sauk, and Meskwaki. Other animals, such as the American mastodon, extinct for 10,000 years, once roamed these lands. As we enter this space, the ghosts of humans and other animals past are among us. We are called to join in the work of education, reparation, and healing for all species.
Today is the third Sunday of autumn. The moon was new early Wednesday morning and is now waxing crescent. Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year, began on the day of the new moon. We are in the midst of the 10 days of repentance, which concludes with Yom Kippur on Saturday, October 12th, the holiest day of the year in Judaism.
A special welcome to our visitors. For those of you on Zoom, thanks for tuning in. And please be sure your mic is muted. If you are here with children, there is childcare, or feel free to keep them seated with you or utilize our play area in the back.
Newcomers are invited to join us for curiosity conversations, to learn a little bit more about us, to ask whatever questions you might have. We have those on the first Sunday of each month, so today. In the space in the back of our auditorium, it'll start a few minutes after the end of our service today. We are a people of covenant, not of creed, and we express our covenant in our denomination's bylaws, our bond of union, our mission, and our relational covenant. Today, please join me in reading the covenant from the Unitarian Universalist Association bylaws, words in your order of service. We covenant to support and assist one another in our ministries. We draw from our heritages of freedom, reason, hope, and courage, building on the foundation of love. Love is the power that holds us together and is at the center of our shared values. We are accountable to one another for doing the work of living our shared values through the spiritual discipline of love. Inseparable from one another, these shared values are interdependence, pluralism, justice, transformation, generosity, and equity. This year's curriculum for spiritual growth and learning is sketched in our thematic ministry flyer available on the back table. Our theme for October is fear. Packets are available in the basket just outside the door there. And now we light our chalice.
On the third Sunday of the season, we dedicate our chalice to the value of justice. Please join with me in the chalice lighting words from Elizabeth McMaster in your order of service. We light our flaming chalice to illuminate the world we seek. In the search for truth, may we be just. In the search for justice, may we be loving. And in loving, may we find peace. The responsive reading is number 519 in the back of your gray hymnal. Please respond with the indented and italicized words. Oops. Let me not pray to be sheltered from dangers. Let me not beg for the stilling of my pain. Let me not look for allies in life's battlefield. Let me not crave in anxious fear to be saved. Grant me that I may not be a coward, feeling your mercy in my success alone. Our song invocation words are in your order of service. Our story for all ages is Scaredy Squirrel by Melanie Watt. Squirrels. Scaredy Squirrel never leaves his nut tree.
I'd rather stay in my safe and familiar tree than risk venturing out into the unknown.
The unknown can be a scary place for a squirrel. A few things Scaredy Squirrel is afraid of: green Martians,
Killer bees,
tarantulas,
poison ivy,
germs.
sharks.
So he's perfectly happy to stay right where he is.
Advantages of never leaving the nut tree: great view, plenty of nuts, safe place, and no tarantulas, green Martians, killer bees, germs, or sharks.
Disadvantages of never leaving the nut tree: same old view, same old nuts, same old place, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. In Scaredy Squirrel's nut tree, every day is the same.
Everything is predictable. All is under control.
Scaredy Squirrel's daily routine: 6:45 a.m., wake up. 7 a.m., eat a nut. 7:15 a.m., look at the view. 12 noon, eat a nut. 12:30 p.m., look at view. 5 p.m., eat a nut. 5:30 p.m., look at view. 8 p.m., go to sleep.
But let's say, just for example, that something unexpected did happen. You may rest assured that this squirrel is prepared.
A few items in Scaredy Squirrel's emergency kit: hard hat, antibacterial soap, calamine lotion, parachute, bug spray, mask and rubber gloves, net, Band-Aids, sardines.
What to do in case of emergency according to Scaredy Squirrel. Step 1, panic. Step 2, run. Step 3, get kit. Step 4, put on kit. Step 5, consult exit plan. Step 6, exit tree if there is absolutely, definitely, truly no other option.
Scaredy Squirrel's top secret exit plan consisted of a series of notes to self. Note to self: watch out for green Martians and killer bees in the sky. Note to self: do not land in river. If unavoidable, use sardines to distract the sharks. Note to self: look out for poison ivy and for tarantulas roaming the ground. Note to self: keep in mind that germs are everywhere.
And remember, if all else fails, playing dead is always a good option.
With his emergency kit in hand, Scaredy Squirrel watches. Day after day he watches, until one day, Thursday, 9:37 a.m., a killer bee appears. Scaredy Squirrel jumps in panic, knocking his emergency kit out of the tree.
This was not a part of the plan.
Scaredy Squirrel jumps to catch his kit. He quickly regrets this idea because the parachute is in the kit, but something incredible happens.
I start to glide. Turns out I'm a flying squirrel. Who knew?
Scaredy Squirrel forgets all about killer bees, not to mention the tarantulas, poison ivy, green Martians, germs, and sharks.
I feel overjoyed, adventurous, carefree, alive.
Until he lands in a bush and plays dead. 30 minutes later, 1 hour later, 2 hours later.
Finally, I realize that nothing horrible is happening in the unknown today, so I return to my nut tree.
All this excitement has inspired Scaredy Squirrel to make drastic changes to his life.
Scaredy Squirrel's new and improved daily routine. 6:45 a.m., wake up. 7 a.m., eat a nut. 7:15 a.m., look at view. 9:37 a.m., jump into the unknown. 9:45 a.m., play dead. 11:45 a.m., return home. 12 noon, eat a nut. 12:30, look at view. 5 p.m., eat a nut. 5:31 p.m., look at view. 8 p.m., go to sleep.
The end. Join me in the children's benediction as we sing the children out to their classes. We will now have a spotlight from Q-Tag.
Hi, my name is not Q-Tag. My name is Polly Antonelli. My pronouns are she, her, hers. And I have two announcements to share with you today from our Queer and Transgender Action Group. That would be Q-Tag. This Friday, October 11th, that's Friday, yep, is National Coming Out Day, which was first celebrated in 1988 on the anniversary of the Second National March on Washington for Lesbian and Gay Rights. Observed annually on October 11, it encourages LGBTQ+ individuals for whom it is safe to come out of the closet. That is, to live authentically, openly sharing their sexual orientation or gender identity with friends, family, and colleagues. In hopes of encouraging acceptance and allyship, it highlights the importance of visibility and openness to demonstrating that everyone knows someone who is LGBTQ+, even if they didn't realize they knew someone personally. National Coming Out Day is important to increasing awareness and education, helping to reduce stigma, promote understanding, and garner support for facing the civil and human rights struggles that still challenge the LGBTQ+ community. Many of those struggles are rooted in some people's belief that the Bible condemns homosexuality. In recognition of National Coming Out Day this year, the Queer and Trans Action Group is hosting a free movie showing here at church this coming Friday, October 11 at 7 p.m. This fascinating documentary is called 1946, The Mistranslation That Shifted Culture. In this film, a gay seminary scholar and a straight activist seeking to uncover the origins of the rabid homophobia of the conservative church make a shocking discovery: an erroneous translation of the term homosexual in the Bible in 1946, which has been weaponized against the LGBTQ+ community ever since. Please join us here Friday at 7 for this informative and important documentary. Thanks.
My name is Jim Carty. I am a pastoral care associate for our congregation. If you are going through any significant transition in your life, it can be helpful to process what you're feeling with a member of our pastoral care team. Reach out to us at pastoralcareteam@ucdsm.org. In this week's joys and sorrows, a celebration of life for Bob Bilowski was held here yesterday. We send our love and sympathy to his wife, Margaret, and their family. We are sad to share that Caesar Smith, his health continues to decline. He is at the Veterans Hospital here in Des Moines. While a lot of visitors may not be the most helpful at this time, cards of support can be sent to their home address. We hold Caesar and his wife, Phyllis Swink, in our hearts. May love and deep peace envelop them. You can always request assistance, volunteer to provide it, or submit a joy or sorrow through the Caring Community page on our website, or by speaking to me or any member of the pastoral care team. Let us share together now the names of anyone we know who could use some special care and attention. You may call the name out loud or type it into the chat. We share these names. May the love of this community hold them all.
Dear Spirit of life and all the conditions that make love possible and make love powerful, may all who are enmeshed in fear be drawn into your circle, drawn into reverence for life and service to love. Let us acknowledge that the fear and anger and reactivity we see in others resides in our hearts too. So let there be peace on earth and let it begin with us. Let there be reverence for life and the perpetual gentle guidance of compassion, and let it begin with us. May we know our fears, see them clearly, feel them at the moment of their arising, and acknowledge them. For if our fears are recognized, seen, acknowledged as a part of us, the fears will depart until their next return. Dear Spirit of life and all the conditions that make love possible and make love powerful, abide in our hearts and be with the victims of Hurricane Helene, all those who lost so much in that storm, those who grieve, those who are still searching for loved ones, those who lost their home, those still struggling without power, water, or cell phone coverage. Be with the people and leaders of Israel and of Gaza and their neighbors as the wars between Israel and Hamas spills over into other countries, as conditions in Gaza continue to deteriorate, as Hezbollah forces attack northern Israel, as Israeli airstrikes pummel Beirut's southern suburbs. And be with also those whom we hold in our hearts, those known and unknown to us, leading lives of courage and compassion, creativity, innovation, and service. The German professor with a plan to grow 1 million trees in the Sahara, the Danish company that developed a vaccine for the mpox ravaging Africa, Great Britain, which closed its last coal power plant this week, The Hague, which became the first city to ban fossil fuel ads, Mexico, where climate scientist Claudia Sheinbaum was sworn in as president this week, California, whose governor signed into law a ban on all plastic shopping bags, Georgia, where a judge struck down the state's 6-week abortion ban and said the state must resume as it was when Roe versus Wade was the law of the land. And on and on. Everywhere, there are people serving peace, justice, liberty, and sustainability. Dear Spirit of life, and all the conditions that make love possible and make love powerful, be with us as we strive to be among them, as we add our voices and energies to building a gentler world.
May the light of our community shine on the broken places of the world. May we not look away when we are needed. May we confront what is cruel, heal what is broken, and delight in what is good. We light 3 candles. One for the joys and sorrows shared aloud, one for those shared in writing, and one for those held silently among us. For all of these, let us be silent for a time.
When I breathe in peace. When I breathe out love. When I breathe in peace. When I breathe out love. When I breathe in peace. When I breathe out love.
The reading is from Rick Hansen's book, Just One Thing. Chapter 42 is Notice You're All Right, right now. To keep our ancestors alive, the brain evolved an ongoing internal trickle of unease. This little whisper of worry keeps you scanning your inner and outer worlds for signs of trouble. This background of unsettledness and watchfulness is so automatic that you can forget it's there. So see if you can tune in to a tension, guarding, or bracing in your body, or a vigilance about your environment or other people, or a block against completely relaxing, letting down, letting go. Try to walk through an office or store that you know is safe without a molecule of wariness. It's really hard. Or try to sit at home for 5 minutes straight while feeling undefended, soft in your body, utterly comfortable in the moment as it is, at peace. This is impossible for most people. The brain's default setting of apprehensiveness is a great way to keep a monkey looking over its shoulder for something about to pounce. but it's a crummy way to live. It wears down well-being, feeds anxiety and depression, and makes people play small in life. And it's based on a lie. In effect, that uneasiness in the background is continually whispering in your mental ear. You're not safe, you're surrounded by threats, you can never afford to lower your guard. But take a close look at this moment right now. Probably you are basically all right. No one is attacking you, and you're not drowning, no bombs are falling, there is no crisis. It's not perfect, but you're okay. By right now, I mean this moment. When we go into the future, we worry and plan. When we go into the past, we resent and regret. Threads of fear are woven into the mental tapestries of past and future. Look again at the thin slice of time that is the present. In this moment, are you basically okay? Is breathing okay? Is the heart beating? Is the mind working? The answers are almost certainly yes. We come now to the offering, recalling our value, justice. We work to be diverse, multicultural, beloved communities where all thrive. We covenant to dismantle racism and all forms of systemic oppression. We support the use of inclusive democratic processes to make decisions. In the spirit of gratitude, of which the offering is an expression, I mention now 3 of the more than 30 items currently on our Singing Gratitude bulletin board. Thank you to Natalie Mason for being so positive and welcoming and leading by example. Thank you, Sue Huber and Linda Goff, for leading our class on the book Braiding Sweetgrass and other classes. Thank you, Mark Metz and Doug Opperly, for helping with our youth and on the church grounds in our Progressive Voices series. In gratitude, then, we give, for in gratitude, we receive.
Before I get started, I want to call your attention to the 10 sign-up sheets that are taped to the wall in the back. Now, if you are already signed up for and in one of our connection circles, then you can ignore those. You are signed up if you're signed up. But if for whatever reason you found it daunting to sign up online or you just haven't gotten around to it, well, there's a basket of pencils there, and you can peruse all the times and the places that are still open, and just pencil in your name, and we will take care of the rest. Faith is real good about going online and entering people's names. But we want to make sure that you have done at least one step on your own. Even if you don't think you're going to be going to the group very often, we would like to know which group you would go to if you happen to have a month when you had a chance to. So sign up. Our theme for October is fear. We have certain brain circuitry that gives us quick, intuitive reactivity, and another system that's thoughtful and analytic, but slower. Next month, our theme will be reason. The thing is, reason is slow. Thinking things through is going to take a minute. Fear latches onto our intuitive hunches and generates a quicker response. And our ancestors often needed that. Fear helps us survive by grabbing our attention when there's something to which we need to be attentive, and by gearing up energy to protect ourselves. So our brains are built with this dual control system, the slow and thoughtful and the quick and intuitive. The dual control system was pretty adaptive for hunter-gatherers who never traveled very far. If there was a vivid memory of a danger ready to hand, then it was probably a memory of something that actually happened in your presence and not far from where you are right now. If you're facing a situation that looks similar, it makes sense for that fear reaction to be triggered without waiting for the slow, plodding assessment of reasoning. Imagine a Stone Age hunter who falls asleep by the glowing embers of a campfire one night, and when he opens his eyes in the morning, he is lying on the sidewalk at the corner of 8th Street and Grand Avenue, downtown Des Moines. That's basically us. We inherited our protective and fearful reactivity from Stone Age ancestors, only we're trying to make our way in a very different world. That reactivity was really helpful for our ancestors dealing with the world they found themselves in millions of years ago, but a system that grabs our attention, gives us quick reaction, intuitive judgments, overrides reason, is ripe for manipulation. And so the evening news specializes in a report you can't afford to miss about a danger that could be lurking near you. It grabs attention, and that's what they need for their ratings. The result is that the overall fear in our lives creeps upward. We overestimate the risk from things that make the evening news and underestimate the risk from things that don't. Murder, terrorism, fire, flood, and sharks seize our fearful imaginations. But risks like diabetes and asthma and heart disease and auto accidents are much greater but get less of our attention. Now, we need to have that fear response. The thing is, though, that the fear response is often not very bright. The fear response can't even tell the difference between your firsthand experience and someone else's stories. It believes the examples that are most readily at hand. Statistics and rational risk analysis have no effect on the fear response. Fear will fixate on one lurid story. And that was fine for our hunter-gatherer ancestors who never traveled very far. For our ancestors, any vivid memory of danger ready to hand probably was a memory that actually happened in their presence. In a situation that looked similar to that memory, the warning bells of fear made sense. We see fear controlling how people vote and hence what policies are adopted. Consider immigration. Suppose the flow of immigration into this country were to drastically drop. Let's say that somehow conditions in their home countries improved enough so that would-be immigrants were content to stay home. I understand there's some evidence for an argument that local communities would, in some ways, face less pressure on healthcare, education, and housing needs in the U.S. On the other hand, in other ways, there'd be increased pressure on Social Security and healthcare systems as our aging U.S. population would be less offset by typically younger immigrants. Some industries, notably agriculture and construction, would face labor shortages affecting production costs. Reduced immigration would likely lead to decreased consumer spending, reduced economic activity, lower GDP growth. And we would lose diversity and the creativity and innovation that is engendered when diverse cultural perspectives interact. It's a complicated issue that really needs the reason system to come online and think it through. Instead, fear of the other hijacks any rational or evidence-based approach. You might remember that last January, when our theme was pluralism, I mentioned the work of Australian political scientist Karen Stenner, who argues that underlying racism, sexism, classism, homophobia, xenophobia, transphobia is something more fundamental: differenceism. The various forms of harmful prejudice are all variations of a basic anxiety about difference, an anxiety that produces, in Stenner's words, a fundamental and overwhelming desire to establish and defend some collective order of oneness and sameness. In one of Stenner's studies, people scoring high on fear of difference were told that NASA had verified the existence of alien life, beings very different from us in ways we are not yet even able to imagine. After being told that, the measured racial intolerance of those subjects decreased by half. In other words, they are afraid of whatever is most different. For fearful white people, as Stenner put it, Black people look a lot more like us than them when there are green people afoot. Fear not only shuts down reason, it shuts down compassion. It closes our head and it closes our heart. My colleague Erica Hewitt wrote movingly, she says, "For many reasons, people depart. They leave home or the places given to them in place of home that might have been lost to war. They seek refuge from 1,000 dangers and uncertainties. For many reasons, many of them inconceivable to us who live in relative peace and prosperity, people can't stay where they are, in the places they know. So for themselves and for their children, they trade the hell they know for the unknown and the foreign. For so many reasons, unimaginable to me and maybe to you too, people give up their sense of belonging. They surrender the climate and food and sounds and smells that their bodies have always known for the new, the unfamiliar, the harsh, and the unlearnable. Some members of our human family are throwing their arms wide to welcome those seeking mercy and seeking home. Others are nearly taking up arms to drive them away. Those of us who call ourselves Americans are all, to some degree, complicit in the unstable geopolitical disasters that result in such vast human suffering. Our country's own policies are culpable, and by extension, us. We have protected our American lifestyle of consumption and corporate rule, and we've lost a little bit of our soul. That's what fear does. Fear is a voice that says nothing matters more than self-preservation and self-importance. Fear drains the antifreeze out of your heart, so your compassion center runs cold. It cuts off the feeding tubes that keep our souls supple and our morality intact. How much would it cost us to invoke the principles of our faith and the beating heart of our ethical lives by saying, we're a single, interconnected human family. We make one another stronger and braver by sharing what we have. All people have the same worth and the same inherent dignity, and no human being is illegal. The suffering of people beyond our borders asks us to examine how we've created the conditions for that suffering. End quote. Another issue where our fear reaction overrode both rationality and compassion is our incarceration rate. In 1930, about 200 of every 100,000 men was incarcerated, and it stayed relatively flat for the next 40 years. Indeed, as of 1970, there were fewer than 200 of every 100,000 men incarcerated. By 1980, it had climbed a bit, up to 275 men per 100,000, and then it really took off. By 1990, we had jumped all the way to almost 600 per 100,000. By 2000, we were over 900 men per 100,000 in state or federal prison. It's dropped a little bit since then, but still stands about triple what it was in 1980. Women's incarceration has also increased, albeit less dramatically. The United States has 4.4% of the world's population, yet we have 22% of all the world's prisoners. And we're paying about $84 billion a year for all those prisons and jails. Adding in the people on probation and on parole, and about 1 in 32 Americans are under some form of criminal justice system control. I will pick up from there after our interlude. Bruce, maybe some chain gang music? The drastic uptick in incarceration was driven by both greater likelihood of a prison sentence and longer sentence terms. And those, in turn, were driven by many states passing 3 strikes laws and mandatory sentencing. The war on drugs is a big part of this picture. Americans got scared. We were scared of drug addicts, and whites were scared of African Americans, who are way disproportionately incarcerated. As blacks were freed from the most onerous shackles of Jim Crow segregation, white voters elected officials to find ways to move mass numbers of blacks into prison instead. We're scared, whether we have any basis for it or not. Gallup polling since 1989 has found that in most years in which there was a decline in the U.S. crime rate, a majority of Americans said violent crime was getting worse, which is just what is going on right now. Researchers suggest that changes in our news media contributed to growing fear and misperception. Media consolidation reduced competition. Media executives slashed budgets for investigative journalism. It was cheaper to fill the space from the police blotter It's safer, easier, and cheaper to write about crimes committed by poor people than those committed by the wealthy, who might be funding the advertising revenue. Stories about a missing white woman are cheap to produce, and they grab audience share. Stay tuned for unfolding developments. Fear grows, reactivity grows. We become, as a people, less rational and less compassionate. The reality is that we in the developed world are safer than any human population ever has been. Try spending an afternoon in a Victorian cemetery, noticing how many of the gravestones have death dates only a few years different from the birth dates. The defining feeling of our age ought to be gratitude, not fear. And yet it seems the less we have to fear, the more we fear. The numbers show decreasing crime, decreasing disease, increasing lifespan. However, shaped in a world of campfires and flint spears, our intuition is as innately lousy with numbers as it is good with stories. And don't think that people on the right have a monopoly on fear. The left has a history of its own unfounded fears. In 1967, a bestseller by William and Paul Paddock was titled Famine 1975. It was full of detailed scientific data and reasoning. Population was booming, agriculture was static. There were going to be massive famines in about 8 more years, said the Paddocks. And the very next year, 1968, Paul Ehrlich's The Population Bomb similarly predicted huge die-offs from outstripping our food supply. 65 million Americans will die of starvation between 1980 and 1989, Ehrlich predicted. And by 1999, the US population will have declined to 22.6 million. In 1970, Harvard biologist George Wald predicted that civilization will end within 15 or 30 years unless immediate action is taken against problems facing humanity. Also in 1970, Life magazine reported that by 1985, air pollution will have reduced the amount of sunlight reaching Earth by 1/2. So, what are we to do? Aware that fear gets attention, that fear can dominate lives, that fear also leads us to bad decisions, how do we deal with it? How do we hew to the path of both reason and compassion? We must begin with ourselves. It's easy to point the finger at other people getting carried away by self-centered or irrational fears. But as your spiritual leader, I must remind you of the spiritual task, which is always to turn that finger back to point to ourselves. All of us are prone to fear. And all of us can grow more skillful at dealing with it. The primary task is to notice. I ask you this month to take up the spiritual exercise that is in our October Connecting packet. Every day for 7 days, write in your journal describing one fear you experienced in the previous 24 hours. If you don't have a journal, you might think about getting one. There are a number of journaling practices that are tremendously useful, even necessary for our ethical and spiritual growth, which, after all, is the mission of this congregation. Or for this exercise, just use whatever paper you have around. Every day for a week, handwrite a description of one fear you experienced in the previous 24 hours and answer these questions about it. What were you afraid of? How strong was it on a scale of mild to terrifying? How long did it last, or is it ongoing? Would you say there was a rational basis for that fear? And what came of it? What did the fear bring about? What response did you make to the fear? At the end of the week, look back over your entries. What lessons do you draw? For me, as I was sharing with the Connection Circles facilitators yesterday, I started this on Friday before last, and that first day I had a very definite fear. I thought I might run out of gas. As I started for work that morning, a little meter on my dash said I had 40 miles left. But when I started home that evening, the meter for miles left just had a dash. Oops. Describing in my journal, I recalled that every traffic light that stopped me from rolling on through that intersection brought up tension and exasperation and impatience, and I also recalled noticing these reactions and how noticing them helped relax them. I noticed, as the reading Louise shared earlier said, that I was all right now, reminding myself that if I do run out of gas, I know what to do. There's an empty gas container in the trunk, and I'll walk to a filling station and fill it and bring it back. It'll take a while and it'll be inconvenient, but just knowing that I knew how to handle it calmed me. Nothing terrible is threatening. And even if it were, there is a crucial touchstone that I come back to over and over. We all die. Take reasonable precautions and leave it in the universe's hands. The next day was Saturday, my sermon writing day. I was putting together the sermon you may have heard last week on repentance and repair. I had read the book, but choosing how to frame the common read and what small sliver of the book to highlight was the labor of the day. And when I came to my journal and asked of myself, what did I fear that day? It brought to mind that there is always a low-level fear or anxiety about creative work on deadline, even after all these years when long experience has taught me that I will be able to pull something together. I do worry. Will it be very good? Will it be persuasive or moving or helpful? In this case, that little bit of fear in the background is a friend. It helps keep me focused on the task. Every day, there's some form of fear, small or large, that bubbles up. This journaling exercise helped me be more aware of the little ways that it pops up, sometimes helpfully, sometimes not. The primary task is to notice. So give that spiritual exercise a try yourself. Listen attentively to what fear says. Don't tell the fear to go away. Don't repress or suppress. And don't indulge either. Let fear go, not in the sense of dismissing it or even releasing it, but let it go in the sense of allow it to go on. Allow it to proceed and watch as it does. If fear feels listened to, then fear will begin calming down. It may take a little while. Give it all the time it needs. It's when we don't acknowledge our fears that they keep on in the background pulling our levers. You can then choose to call on other inner voices that you have. You can say, okay, let me now hear from compassion, from that capacity within me to love my neighbor, love all beings. What does my voice of universal love have to say? Listen to the voice of fear, and when it has been heard, come back to the voice of love. Amen.
Please join us in our closing hymn, number 1028, in the teal hymnal, The Fire of Commitment.
Please say with me our unison chalice extinguishing words. The flame is now ours to carry, the encouraging fire of spiritual growth, the warmth of acceptance, the light of love. These abide in our hearts, in our words, and in the work of our hands.
Take courage, friends. There are things that are hard. There are things that are scary. Yet take courage, for there's this also truth. You are not alone. Go in peace.